At the age of 50, my grandmother, Philomena, lost her husband to a heart attack. She moved in with my parents, and by the time I was born 7 years later, she was a well-established member of the household. Grandma cared for us while my parents worked. Before I started school, we took daily walks to a little pond down the road to feed the ducks. I loved to look up at the willow trees lining the road as we walked, which would inevitably cause me to either run into Grandma or whack her pink sweatpants with the plastic bag of Wonder Bread crumbs. The crinkling of the plastic and pebbles scratching beneath our footsteps were the only sounds. I slept with Grandma until I was too embarrassed not to be sleeping in my own bed. At night, we'd watch Golden Girls, which meant that I got to stay up extra late. Once, I asked Grandma Phil a question after we turned the TV off. "Grandma, can people fly in heaven?" I attended Catholic school, so heaven was never far from my mind, but I had become wary of the description in the Bible. Singing praises of the Lord for all eternity sounded boring. I preferred to believe heaven was basically my best day on earth, but with the ability to fly. "No," Grandma said. Another time, I asked her if my pet hamster that had disappeared would go to heaven if it died. "No," she responded. I stopped asking questions. In the mornings, Grandma would walk into the kitchen, get her mug of coffee, and make her way to the patio door. It overlooked the beautiful flower beds she kept and an oversized swimming pool. She'd look out the window, slowly sip her coffee, and stare for a long minute before speaking. "Oh, bummer," she'd breathe out like a meditation. No matter what was on the docket, it was a bummer. No matter how beautiful the day was, it was going to rain. Regardless of what lay ahead, though, Grandma's productive. She still insists on doing her own laundry, which is on the second floor. She uses a laundry basket as a crutch and descends the stairs backwards to make sure she has as much balance as possible. The only hiatus she took from this chore was when she was recovering from her second surgery for breast cancer in her early 90s. At 97 years old, she still outdoes me. In fact, she still bakes for me. Before the quarantine, I visited her. I watched her hands work the dough, amazed at how, despite crippling arthritis, despite a twisted wrist that never properly was treated, she found a way to get the job done, taking small bits of dough to stretch and push. "How are you, Grams?" I nearly shouted. She looked at my mouth, her mouth moving in time, making sense of the words. She thought about it. "Old," she said, and then shrugged and smiled. She took a small break from kneading the dough to have a root beer, her one vice. To open it, she grabbed a butter knife from the drawer and slid it under the tab. "Geez, Grams, I can help you if you want," I said, entertained and slightly disturbed. "I get by like this," she said, and then looking out the window. "Isn't it a bummer?" She paused, slurping. "Getting old is the pits." I smiled and nodded. My inclination was to comfort her, point out that getting old was better than the alternative. But she's 97. Who was I to be telling her what getting old was? Besides, I can see things the same way. What I've learned from Grandma, though, is that strength and perseverance aren't about optimism. They aren't about wishing things were different. They're about seeing the ugly, calling it out, and doing the righteous work.